Your addiction isn't what you think it is. It's not weakness, moral failure, or lack of willpower. Carl Jung discovered something about addiction that changes everything. It's your psyche's desperate attempt to touch the divine, to escape the prison of ego, to experience wholeness. You're not addicted to the substance, you're addicted to the momentary transcendence it provides. And until you understand this, you'll keep seeking God in a bottle, enlightenment in a pill, or wholeness in whatever your drug of choice is. Jung worked with Roland H., a hopeless alcoholic who had tried everything. Doctors, treatments, willpower, nothing worked. Jung told him something that would later inspire the creation of AA. His craving for alcohol was, at its core, a spiritual thirst. The Latin phrase, spiritus contra spiritum, spirit against spirit. You can't defeat spiritual craving with physical solutions. You can't think your way out of a soul problem. Here's what Jung understood that modern treatment misses. Addiction is a religious experience gone wrong. That first hit, that first drink, that first bet, it gave you something transcendent. For a moment, you escaped the tyranny of your ego. You felt connected, whole, infinite. The walls dissolved. The pain stopped. You touched something beyond the mundane horror of everyday consciousness. But here's the trick. You confused the doorway with the destination. The substance was never the source of transcendence. It just temporarily dismantled the barriers your ego had built. It's like breaking down a prison wall with a sledgehammer and thinking the sledgehammer is freedom. The sledgehammer isn't freedom. It's just what you used to glimpse it. I knew a surgeon, brilliant and accomplished, who became addicted to opioids. Not from physical pain, but from existential pain. The pills didn't just numb his body. They numbed the unbearable awareness of life's meaninglessness that his intelligence forced him to see. For a few hours, he didn't have to be the responsible one, the perfect one, the one holding everything together. He could dissolve into nothingness, and that nothingness felt like peace. Jung would say he wasn't addicted to opioids. He was addicted to ego death, but he was achieving it through slow suicide rather than conscious transformation. The shadow plays a crucial role in addiction that nobody talks about. Your addiction is often your shadow's only outlet. The good boy who never rebels finds rebellion in secret drinking. The perfect mother finds her darkness in wine. The controlled executive finds chaos in cocaine. The substance becomes the only place your shadow can live, the only time your rejected self can breathe. This is why simply removing the substance doesn't work. Take away an alcoholic's drink without addressing their shadow, and the shadow finds another outlet. Work addiction, sex addiction, rage. You're not healing. You're just playing psychological whack-a-mole. The shadow demands expression, and if you don't give it conscious expression, it'll take unconscious control. Jung understood that every addiction has what he called a numinous quality, a divine or spiritual dimension. The gambler isn't just chasing money, they're chasing the god of chance, the moment when fate smiles upon them. The sex addict isn't just chasing orgasm, they're chasing union, the dissolution of self into other. The workaholic isn't just chasing success, they're chasing meaning, purpose, a sense of mattering in an indifferent universe. Here's what's going to change how you see addiction forever. Jung discovered that the psyche has a religious function, not religious in the church sense, but in the sense of needing connection to something greater than ego. If this religious function isn't consciously engaged, it goes underground and becomes addiction. You're literally worshiping at the altar of your substance, making sacrifices to it, organizing your life around it, exactly like religious devotion. The ritual aspect of addiction proves Jung's point. Every addict has their rituals, the way the alcoholic prepares their drink. The gambler's lucky close, the addict's specific routine. These aren't just habits, they're religious ceremonies, attempts to invoke the divine through repetition. You're not just using, you're practicing a twisted religion where the substance is God. But here's the devastating truth. The substance is a jealous God that demands everything and delivers less and less. The first time, it gives you transcendence. The 100th time, it just stops the withdrawal. You're no longer chasing the high. You're running from the low. You're not seeking heaven. You're avoiding hell. The God you've been worshipping has become a demon that owns you. Jung identified that addiction fills what he called the void. But not the void you think. It's not emptiness that drives addiction. It's the absence of meaning. Modern life has stripped away mythology, ritual, community, purpose. We're told to consume and achieve, but never why. We're given methods, but no meaning. The addiction provides instant meaning, the meaning of the next fix, the purpose of obtaining it, the community of fellow addicts, the mythology of the high. I watched this with a woman addicted to shopping. It wasn't about the items. She often never unwrapped them. It was about the moment of purchase, when she felt powerful, decisive, able to change her reality with a credit card swipe. For that moment, she wasn't a depressed housewife in a dead marriage. She was a goddess of abundance, creating reality through acquisition. Jung would recognize this as a cargo cult of the soul, worshipping the symbol instead of what it represents. She needed transformation, but settled for transaction. The individuation process Jung described is the only real cure for addiction. Not sobriety, that's just the beginning. But becoming who you truly are, integrating your shadow, finding your authentic path. The addiction is often a misguided attempt at individuation, a violent try at breaking out of the false self. The substance promises to show you who you really are, but actually shows you who you're not. Here's what Jung knew that will free you. Addiction is always about wholeness. You're trying to add something to yourself to become complete. But wholeness isn't achieved through addition. It's achieved through integration. You don't need to add anything. You need to integrate everything you already are. The parts you've rejected, denied, hidden. They're creating the void you're trying to fill. The synchronicities around addiction are profound. Jung would point out how the universe conspires to show you your addiction's true nature. The dealer who doesn't show up. The moment of clarity in the bathroom mirror. The child who sees you high and asks if you're okay. These aren't random events. They're the self trying to wake you up, to show you that you're seeking the right thing in the wrong place. Dreams during addiction and recovery are particularly significant. Jung noticed that addicts often dream of their substance as a person, animal, or divine figure. The bottle becomes a lover. The needle becomes a mother. The pills become angels. The psyche is showing you what you're really seeking: relationship, nurturing, transcendence. The substance is just a concrete symbol of a spiritual need. The compensation principle Jung identified explains why moderation doesn't work for true addicts. The psyche seeks balance. The more you consciously control, the more the unconscious rebels. The tighter you grip, the more explosive the release. Total abstinence works better than moderation because it forces the psyche to find balance elsewhere, to seek transcendence through healthier means. But here's the key Jung understood. You can't just remove the addiction. You have to replace it with what it was poorly substituting for. If alcohol was your bad church, you need real spiritual practice. If drugs were your shadow's playground, you need conscious shadow work. If gambling was your dance with fate, you need genuine risk and adventure. You have to give the psyche what it's actually seeking, not what it settled for. The religious conversion experience that Jung saw could cure addiction isn't about joining a religion. It's about what he called a vital spiritual experience, a direct encounter with the numinous that reorganizes the entire personality. The ego that needed the substance dies, and a new self is born that doesn't. This isn't metaphorical. It's a complete psychological restructuring. I witnessed this with a man who had a vision during withdrawal. Not a hallucination, but what Jung would call an active imagination experience. He saw his addiction as a dark angel that had been protecting him from suicide. The addiction wasn't his enemy. It was a misguided protector, keeping him barely alive when he wanted to die. Once he understood this, he could thank the addiction for keeping him alive and release it, finding healthier protectors. The community aspect of recovery that Jung influenced in AA isn't just about support. It's about what he called the collective unconscious. When addicts gather, they're accessing archetypal patterns of death and rebirth, fall and redemption. They're not just sharing personal stories. They're participating in humanity's oldest story, the journey from darkness to light, from slavery to freedom, from unconsciousness to consciousness. Here's what will change everything. Your addiction is your teacher, not your enemy. It's showing you what your soul genuinely needs. The craving isn't the problem. It's the misdirection of the craving that's the problem. You're not sick, you're seeking. You're not weak, you're using the wrong strength. You're not morally failing, you're spiritually starving. Jung's insight about the low bottom that many addicts need isn't about punishment. It's about ego death. The ego that created the addiction must die for a new self to be born. Rock bottom is the solid ground on which reconstruction can begin. It's not failure. It's foundation. The humiliation isn't punishment. It's humility, the beginning of genuine spiritual life. The relapse phenomenon makes sense through Jung's lens. You're not just breaking a habit. You're transforming an entire personality structure. The old self will fight for survival. It will create cravings, manipulate thoughts, generate situations that justify using. Relapse isn't weakness. It's the old self's death throes, its last attempt to resurrect itself. But here's the liberation. Every craving is an opportunity. Instead of seeing craving as temptation, see it as communication. Your psyche is telling you something needs attention. Are you lonely? Overwhelmed? Disconnected from meaning? The craving is a symptom, not the disease. Address what it's pointing to, not the pointing finger itself. Jung knew that addiction couldn't be cured by will because will is ego, and ego is the problem. You can't think your way out because thinking is ego. You can't fight your way out because fighting strengthens what you resist. The only way out is through the ego death that addiction simulates but never completes, through genuine spiritual experience, through becoming who you truly are beneath the addicted identity. The profound truth Jung offers is this: your addiction is a spiritual emergency disguised as a physical dependency. You're not trying to escape reality. You're trying to escape the false reality your ego has created. You're not running from life. You're running toward life, but in the wrong direction. The substance promised transcendence, but delivered slavery. It promised connection, but delivered isolation. It promised wholeness, but delivered fragmentation. It promised God, but delivered idol worship. You weren't wrong to seek these things. You were just seeking them in something that could only provide temporary illusions of them. Recovery isn't about becoming sober. Sobriety is just the prerequisite. Recovery is about becoming whole. It's about finding genuine transcendence through spiritual practice, real connection through authentic relationship, true wholeness through integration of all your parts. It's about worshiping at the altar of life itself, rather than the false altar of substance. Jung's ultimate message to addicts is this: you're not sick, you're seeking. You're not broken, you're breaking through. You're not falling apart, you're falling together. Your addiction isn't your weakness, it's your misdirected strength. Your craving isn't your enemy, it's your soul's compass pointing toward what you really need. The addiction will never control you again once you understand what it really is. Your psyche's desperate attempt to heal itself, to complete itself, to transcend itself. Direct that same intensity toward genuine spiritual experience, real shadow work, authentic individuation, and you'll find what you were looking for in all the wrong places. You were never addicted to a substance. You were addicted to the glimpse of freedom it provided. Now go find the real freedom, not in a bottle or pill or behavior, but in becoming who you truly are beneath all the false selves you've created. That's the only high that lasts, the only escape that's not a trap, the only transcendence that doesn't demand your soul as payment. Your addiction was your soul's cry for help. Now answer it with what it's really asking for. Not substances, but substance. Not escape, but engagement. Not numbness, but aliveness. The same intensity that drove your addiction can drive your recovery. The same desperation that made you use can make you transform. You're not an addict. You're a seeker who got lost. Now you can find your way. Not back to who you were before addiction, but forward to who you were always meant to become.